The desert sun scorched everything it touched. The ground beneath was dry and cracked, stretching into endless waves of sand and rock. On this alien frontier world, humans had tried to build settlements, but the land seemed to resist them. The air shimmered with heat, and distant jagged mountains looked like jagged teeth against the sky. Eli, a rugged cowboy with a wide-brimmed hat and worn boots, rode slowly across the dunes. His horse, a strong but tired animal, stumbled slightly in the shifting sand. Eli's eyes scanned the horizon for any sign of movement. Supplies were low, water almost gone, and the alien predators on this planet were relentless. Every step felt heavier than the last. He had been sent from the settlement to scout for food and water, but something about today felt wrong. The silence was too complete. The occasional distant cry of an alien creature sounded different, almost intelligent. Then, without warning, a massive shape burst from the sand ahead. It was a predator like nothing Eli had ever seen. Its body was armored with shiny plates, its limbs long and muscular, and its mouth opened wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. Eli barely had time to react before it lunged. He drew his revolver, firing, but the bullets barely grazed its thick armor. In the chaos, his horse reared and bolted. Eli was thrown to the ground, hitting hard on the rocks. Pain shot through his side, and he struggled to breathe. Blood trickled down his arm. He knew he was in trouble, serious trouble. Alone in the desert, miles from the nearest settlement, with a creature like this nearby, survival seemed impossible. But he wasn't as alone as he thought. High on a rocky ridge, Aylin watched everything unfold. Aylin was an Apache descendant woman, her dark hair tied back, her eyes sharp and unflinching. She had grown up learning the ways of her ancestors, tracking, hunting, and surviving in harsh lands. On this alien world, she had adapted her knowledge to new threats, strange predators, unpredictable terrain, and human greed. She had been patrolling near the settlement when she saw the movement in the desert below. Her instincts screamed that someone was in danger. She didn't hesitate. Mounting her own horse, she charged down the ridge toward Eli, moving with precision and speed, her mind calculating every step. The alien predator noticed her almost immediately, turning its monstrous head. It snarled, a sound that made the ground vibrate. Aylin did not slow down. She used her knowledge of the terrain to anticipate its movements, guiding her horse to avoid the creature's attacks. She carried a rifle, but more than that, she carried the courage and skill to face a situation most humans would never survive. Eli watched her approach, hope flickering in his eyes. He tried to lift his hand to signal, but the pain was too great. His voice barely reached a whisper. "Help me." Aylin reached him just as the predator struck again. She fired her rifle with precision, aiming for the weak spots in the creature's armor. Her first shot barely slowed it, but it distracted the predator long enough for her to get close to Eli. "Get on my horse," she commanded, her voice calm but firm. Eli hesitated for a moment, injured and in shock, but she didn't wait. She helped him up, and together they fled. The alien predator lunged after them, but Aylin used clever maneuvers, running along narrow canyons and rocky outcrops where the beast could not follow easily. Every step of the way was a struggle. Eli's injuries made it difficult to hold on. Blood stained his clothes and skin, and he felt weak. The sun beat down mercilessly, and the sand beneath the horse's hooves seemed to shift with each step, threatening to throw them off balance. But Aylin's determination never wavered. She guided them through the desert like a seasoned scout, using every skill she had learned from her ancestors. She knew where to find shade, where to find water, and how to avoid dangerous terrain. She whispered instructions to Eli, keeping him conscious and focused. "Hold on, almost there. Don't lose your grip." As they rode, Eli began to notice more than her skill. He noticed the way she moved with confidence, how she read the land and the dangers in it as if she had been born from this desert. She didn't just survive, she thrived. Her presence was a reminder of human adaptability, of courage in the face of threats bigger and stranger than most could imagine. Eli tried to speak, to thank her, but every word hurt. He was not used to relying on anyone, and yet here he was, saved by a woman who refused to leave him behind. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes, it was hard to tell. Time seemed to stretch and blur under the desert sun. Finally, they reached a small rocky plateau partially shaded by jagged cliffs. Aylin slowed the horse, helping Eli down gently. She examined his wounds quickly. "You're hurt badly, but you'll live," she said. "We need to get you to water and shelter fast." She dug a small pit and covered it with rocks to shield them from the sun. Eli could barely move, but he watched her work with efficiency. her hands steady and her mind sharp. Even in this alien land, she brought order out of chaos. They rested briefly, but the desert offered no true safety. Strange alien creatures roamed the dunes, and the rogue colonist faction that had been causing trouble in the area was known to attack travelers. Aylin had to stay alert. She scanned the horizon constantly, her senses attuned to danger. "We can't stay here long," she said. "They will find us if we linger." She helped Eli back onto the horse, wrapping his injuries as best she could. Every step was perilous, every movement calculated. The horse stumbled once and Eli gripped tightly, feeling his strength return slightly under Aylin's guidance. As night fell, the desert transformed. The temperature dropped rapidly, the sands becoming cold under the moonlight. Strange bioluminescent plants glowed faintly, and distant alien predators could be heard prowling. Aylin led Eli through a hidden canyon where they could rest safely. She knew the terrain better than anyone else, using natural caves to hide from predators and enemies alike. Eli began to understand what made her extraordinary. She was more than a scout or a warrior. She was a symbol of human resilience, ingenuity, and compassion. Humans had adapted to this alien world in ways few could imagine, and she embodied it fully. During brief moments of rest, Eli asked questions, trying to learn more about Aylin. She shared stories of her ancestors, how they had survived harsh lands on Earth, and how she applied those lessons to this alien frontier. She spoke of courage, honor, and the importance of not leaving anyone behind. Eli listened, fascinated. He had faced many dangers alone, relying on his skill. But Aylin showed him that survival was not just about individual strength. It was about intelligence, cooperation, and heart. Suddenly, the silence was broken. A rumble echoed through the canyon and the ground shook slightly. Aylin's eyes narrowed. "Seismic activity," she muttered. "We need to move." She helped Eli back onto the horse once more, guiding him through narrow paths that were barely wide enough. Rocks tumbled around them and dust filled the air. The predator was nowhere in sight, but danger remained in every shadow. They pushed forward, relying on instinct and trust. Eli realized he had never depended on anyone like this before, and yet it felt right. Hours later, just as dawn approached, they reached a plateau overlooking a small oasis. Water pooled among alien plants, and the first light of day reflected off the rocks. Eli slumped onto the ground, exhausted but alive. Aylin dismounted, fetching water and helping him drink. "You're going to be okay," she said. Her voice was gentle now, a contrast to the fierce determination she had shown before. "We made it through the worst of it." Eli looked around, taking in the alien beauty of the oasis. For the first time, he realized the desert was not just a place of danger, but a place where human courage could shine. They rested there, catching their breath. The predator and rogue colonists were still threats, but for now they were safe. Eli felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: gratitude, respect, and the beginnings of trust. He knew that without Aylin, he would not have survived the desert. He also knew that human beings, when faced with impossible odds, had the ability to adapt, endure, and overcome. Aylin had proven it, not through words, but through action. As the sun rose higher, casting golden light across the desert, Eli finally spoke clearly. "Thank you for saving me. I don't know what I would have done without you." Aylin smiled faintly, brushing sand from her clothes. "We survive by helping each other. That's what humans do best." Eli nodded, feeling a deep sense of awe. He had seen courage before, but this was something different. It was human ingenuity, determination, and compassion, all in one person. They prepared to continue toward the settlement, knowing the desert was far from safe. Yet with Aylin leading the way and Eli by her side, they faced the challenges together. Every step forward was a reminder that humanity could survive, adapt, and thrive, even on a world as unforgiving as this. And as they rode into the desert, the horizon stretching endlessly before them, Eli realized that sometimes survival was about more than skill or strength. It was about trust, courage, and refusing to let someone die alone. The desert light grew harsher as the sun climbed higher. Eli and Aylin rode cautiously toward the distant settlement, a cluster of human-made buildings barely visible across the waves of sand. Every step was calculated. The predator that had attacked Eli yesterday was still somewhere in the desert, and the rogue colonist faction was known to patrol these areas. Survival required more than strength. It required intelligence, observation, and courage, all qualities Aelin possessed in abundance. Eli, though injured and exhausted, trusted her judgment implicitly. They rode in silence for a while. Eli's eyes wandered across the alien landscape, the jagged cliffs, rolling dunes, and odd bioluminescent plants that glimmered faintly in shaded areas. "I've never seen anything like this," he said, breaking the quiet. His voice was hoarse, and each word took effort. "Back home, it was all flat plains and forests. This is alive." Aelin glanced at him, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "It is alive," she agreed. "But not all life here is kind. That's why we stay alert. That's why we survive." Her words carried weight, and Eli felt it. He had relied on his gun, his horse, and his own strength before. But here, on this alien world, those things alone were not enough. Aelin's ability to read the land, anticipate threats, and react quickly had saved him. He realized that human ingenuity, combined with courage and quick thinking, could overcome challenges even far greater than the ones humans had faced on Earth. Hours passed, and the heat became unbearable. The settlement was closer now, but the desert seemed determined to test them further. Sandstorms rose without warning, turning the landscape into a blinding, swirling chaos. Aelin guided the horse skillfully, crouching low and shielding Eli as best she could. "Keep your head down," she shouted over the roar of the storm. Eli did as he was told, trusting her completely. The sand cut at their skin and eyes, but they moved forward step by careful step. Suddenly, a distant roar echoed through the storm. The predator was back, drawn by movement, scent, and perhaps the memory of its last attack. Aelin's eyes narrowed. "Hold on," she said calmly. She guided the horse into a narrow canyon, knowing the predator could not follow easily. The animal lunged and clawed at the rocks, frustrated, unable to reach them. "It won't give up easily," Aelin said. "But we are faster and smarter." Eli nodded, feeling admiration for her calmness under pressure. He had fought many enemies before, but Aelin's courage and strategy made even this alien threat manageable. As the storm passed, they reached a small oasis hidden among jagged rocks. Water glistened in shallow pools, and strange plants offered shade. Aelin helped Eli dismount and led him to the water. He drank deeply, feeling life return to his parched body. This is incredible," he said between sips. "You know this land better than anyone." Aelin shook her head slightly. "I don't know everything, but I know enough to survive, and enough to save someone else." Eli looked at her, realizing that her skill was more than survival. It was humanity at its best. Courage, intelligence, and compassion combined to face impossible odds. They rested for a while, taking advantage of the shelter the oasis provided. Eli's injuries were serious, but with Aelin's careful attention, they slowly healed. She had learned from her ancestors how to treat wounds using herbs and techniques adapted to alien plants. Eli was impressed. On Earth, he had never seen such knowledge applied so effectively. "You could teach the entire settlement how to survive here," he said. Aelin smiled faintly. "Maybe, but it's more important that I can keep you alive today." Their respite was brief. As they prepared to leave, the sound of approaching voices reached them. Eli froze. "The colonists," he whispered. Aelin's eyes hardened. "Stay calm. Follow my lead." They mounted the horse, moving silently along a hidden path that wound through the canyon. Aelin knew the land's every curve and shadow. She led them through narrow passages and under rocky overhangs, avoiding detection. The colonists passed close enough to see movement, but they did not notice the careful figures hidden in the shadows. Eli marveled at her skill. This was not luck. It was knowledge, preparation, and human ingenuity at its finest. Once the colonists had moved past, Aelin slowed. "We have to keep moving," she said. "They will regroup. They will come again." Eli nodded. He had faced danger before, but he had never relied on anyone like this. He realized that human strength was not only physical, but also in intelligence, teamwork, and courage under pressure. Aelin exemplified it all. The journey continued, and by late afternoon the settlement came into view. Buildings made of metal and stone rose against the horizon, a small cluster of human civilization in an otherwise untamed world. They were not safe yet. Wild creatures and potential enemies still lurked, but hope returned. Eli's strength grew with every step, bolstered by Aelin's confidence and guidance. She helped him dismount as they approached the settlement gates. Guards spotted them and rushed forward, concern and relief on their faces. Eli could barely speak, but Aelin explained quickly, her voice calm and authoritative. Within moments, Eli was helped into the settlement, given water, food, and medical attention. As he recovered, Eli reflected on the journey. He had seen danger, faced death, and been saved by someone extraordinary. Aelin had risked everything to keep him alive, demonstrating qualities that went beyond physical strength. She had shown ingenuity, courage, and humanity, the best of what humans could be. Even on a strange alien world, humans could adapt, survive, and thrive. Eli realized that survival was more than endurance. It was intelligence, strategy, and compassion. Over the next days, Eli and Aelin worked together to strengthen the settlement's defenses. Using her knowledge of the land and alien creatures, Aelin taught the colonists how to anticipate attacks, avoid predators, and use the terrain to their advantage. Eli, inspired by her skill, helped organize patrols and strategies, showing that humans, even in small numbers, could face overwhelming odds. The rogue colonists never returned, and the predator, wary of humans' cleverness, stayed away. One evening, as the sun set in brilliant shades of red and gold, Eli and Aelin stood together on a hill overlooking the settlement. The desert stretched endlessly, dangerous and beautiful, but for the first time it seemed conquerable. Eli turned to Aelin. "You saved my life. More than that, you showed me what humans can do, even here." Aelin smiled, brushing dust from her clothes. "We survived together. That's what makes us human. Courage, intelligence, and heart." Eli nodded, feeling a deep sense of respect and gratitude. He realized that his life had changed forever. He had faced impossible odds, confronted death, and been shown the true power of human spirit. Aelin had not only saved him, she had reminded him of the strength, resilience, and ingenuity that defined humanity. Even in the harshest, most alien world, humans could endure. Humans could triumph. As night fell, the settlement glowed softly with lights, and the sounds of human life filled the air. Eli and Aelin walked among the people, helping where they could, guiding and teaching. They had faced death together, and their bond was unspoken but strong. Eli understood now that survival was not just about fighting or fleeing. It was about intelligence, courage, and the refusal to let anyone die alone. The desert, harsh and unforgiving, stretched endlessly beyond the settlement, but Eli no longer feared it. He had seen the worst and survived thanks to Aelin, and he had learned a truth that would stay with him forever. Humans, when they face the impossible with courage, skill, and compassion, are unstoppable. Together they could face any world, any challenge, and any danger. And so, under the alien sky, the cowboy and the Apache woman walked side by side, ready for whatever the future might bring, confident that humanity at its best could triumph over even the deadliest threats.